Two, hello. Two, check. Two, check. Hello. Is anyone there? We got a slow morning here. We're all limping across the finish line this year, I guess. Hello? Hello, McFly? Hello, McFly? How's it going, everyone? How are you doing? How we doing? I can wait just as long as you can. What's this? Sorry, I got no food to eat on stream right now. Sorry for that. I ate my lunch already. I made some spam and rice and eggs for lunch. I was hungry. And times are a little tight right now. You know, like I said, it's the end of the year. I got presents to buy. I got birthday stuff to pay for. As we all do. You know, you all know what it's like. So trying to make my grocery purchases last. Just made a big thing of spam this morning and had half this afternoon. Gonna have the rest for supper later. Very yummy. Very, very yummy. Spam, rice, green onion, egg. Very, very satisfying. And I hate it all already. Visiting my parents for the holidays, and 4 military helicopters just flew over. They used the peninsula in the town the peninsula the town is in as a landmark to fly over. It's very rare to see the military. Interesting. Maybe it's happening. Maybe it's happening finally. The event. Maybe the event is finally happening. Probably not. They're gonna crash another Chinook. You should write a show for CBS. I remember in those post-Lost years where it was just like everyone was trying to do another Lost and just no one could figure it out. You know? There was like probably 6 to 8 different like Losts that came on in those post-Lost years when that was still going strong. I guess the only one that kind of came close was maybe Fringe. That never quite got to the same level, but that was probably the one that actually like developed a little bit of an audience and at least was on for a few years. Lost couldn't figure it out either. I know. They couldn't even figure out how to be Lost. Why don't we just keep doing the stuff that we've been doing? No. What if we do a bunch of more other stuff that's worse, though? People who love Fringe loved Fringe. I remember I kind of liked the first season or two. I don't think I kept up with it, though. John Noble, though, he was fun in that. The cast was good, you know? You see Variety's top 100 shows? No, I didn't look at that. I just assumed it was a thing that designed to make people mad. And it'll probably just make me mad. Fringe was neat. Yeah, it was pretty neat. It was pretty good. It didn't, to me, it never reached the same highs, but it was fun, though. Yeah, not eating a tomato. I can't think about John Bishop without crunching into one of those squirty tomatoes. It is, but it's funny that it includes game shows. That seems a little weird. Why would you include game shows on that? That's not the real thing. That's not a show. Guess what number 1 is? Friends? I'm just thinking, what would be the thing that would make me the most mad? So I just went with that. I told you before, I've been watching Cheers. Man, I really love Cheers. I'm on making my way through season 3 of that. It's so great just to have on in the background. You know? Sometimes it's nighttime, I go to bed, I want to just kind of scroll through my phone. You got Cheers on in the background. I've been taking a little hiatus from MASH, but I am going to get back into it. It's I Love Lucy. Okay, well, that's fair. I don't think I've watched it all that much, but obviously I'm familiar with it. That's probably a pretty good choice. I hope MASH would be up there as well. MASH is one of the best shows ever as well. Now we're giving into what the Vanity Fair content goblins want, and now we're debating. Now we're talking about it. MASH not even in the top 10. I think that's bullshit. I think you gotta have MASH in there. MASH is fucking incredible. Where's Cheers? Now I'm curious about it. God damn it. God damn it. Cheers is at 11. Okay, that's pretty good. Cheers is really good. I really love throwing, because that's the thing, you can throw on an episode of MASH. I like that, having that in the background as well, but it's like 45 minutes an episode. Cheers, you just got to, it's a 22-minute commitment. There's vague arcs going on, like season 1, are Sam and Diane gonna go out? Season 2 is when they're going out, and then they break up in the end. Season 3 is when Frasier gets introduced. There's a few little season-long arcs, but overall, you don't really need some kind of extensive backstory. You can just drop in pretty much anywhere. Throw it on in the background when you're eating a meal or something, eating breakfast, eating lunch, eating dinner, going to lie down. Like I said, lying down in bed, you smoke a little weed, you scroll through your phone with some Cheers on in the background. It's nice. It's like a comfort blanket. You know? I love that. Seinfeld number 8. I mean, obviously that's one of the best ever. There's no denying that. Mary Tyler Moore. Sex in the City at 6 is pretty controversial, I would say. Yeah, these are pretty, like, you can't really argue with a lot of the top 10, but the placement in the top 10 is somewhat scandalous. Mad Men at 2, like Mad Men is fantastic, but that's still pretty bold though. Oh, it was absolutely brilliant, Sean. But was it the second best TV show of all time? That's the question. 60 Minutes is 20. What a weird list. I swear this list is just designed to fucking provoke this exact kind of discussion and debate and argument. But we're not going to let it tear this community apart. We're not going to let it tear this community apart. I refuse to allow that to happen. We're better than that. We're stronger than that. I'm just going to get a glass of water. Earlier I went in to get a glass of water and I ended up wiping my counters and not getting the water. Be right back. The triangle remains unified. Is Studio 60 not even on the list? That's how you know it's bullshit. That's how you know it's all rigged. Studio 60. I really have to do a Studio 60 rewatch. I kind of want to do a full rewatch and watch along podcast with Studio 60. I just need to find the perfect person to do that with me. The perfect person to torture with an entire rewatch of the season, of the one and only season of Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip. If I can find the right person to torture with that, that could be a really good limited series. Yes, Studio 60 is the Afghanistan one. That's right. And it's funny because like the actor from that scene, I can't even remember the name of the actor from that scene, like that plays the young comedian on Studio 60. He's in For All Mankind and plays the husband, the closeted husband of like who eventually becomes like the president. And he's like the first gentleman of the United States. And he's like, but in like old makeup with like a receding hairline, like an artificial receding hairline. And he looks so funny. And I always just think about that scene. I can't see that actor. And he's a totally fine actor. Totally fine actor. But I can't look at him without thinking about that scene. It's funny that they took the cowards out of the Crazy Christian sketch. It's just so funny to think of the subversive, dangerous humor of the man that wrote that dared to challenge mainstream American society by writing a sketch called Crazy Christians. Oh my God. Oh my God. America just melts down. It can't handle that level of satire. It can't handle that level of satire and brilliant subversive genius of someone saying evangelicals bad. Some like dipshit liberal comedian in the East Coast saying evangelicals bad. Oh my God. Whoa, what? Can he say that? I finally finished The Last of Us show, and damn, it was good. I was surprised. Took me a long time to watch it because I love the game. I was scared it was going to be bad. It's definitely not bad. I think in retrospect, I liked it, and I'm looking forward to the next season and everything. I think in retrospect, there's certain things about the changes that were made that I didn't really like as much. Like everyone really liked the whole episode with Frank and Frank's partner, but I actually thought that was like, I liked the way that narrative was kind of handled in the game a lot better. I didn't really like that they kind of ditched that whole narrative from the game in order to tell this totally kind of like somewhat schmaltzy, like melodramatic romance story, you know? I didn't love that. The episode wasn't even that it was bad, but I didn't really love it. I've started and stopped Last of Us the game for the past 5 years. For some reason, just can't get into it. That's fair. I mean, that happens sometimes. I got really absorbed in it just from moment one. I really liked Naughty Dog as a studio. Like, I love the Uncharted games. I love that genre of kind of apocalyptic fiction, even though it's been somewhat overdone. It was a kind of unique game in that respect, and I got really drawn into the characters and the voice acting and the performances. It really pulled me into it, made me want to finish it. But not everyone has the same experience. Oh, I love the gameplay. I wouldn't say the gameplay is mad. I love the fighting and the shooting and that kind of stuff. I find it really thrilling. Yeah, I wouldn't agree. The controls and the gameplay, I really like that. I really like that about it, actually. Is Last of Us 2 any good? I haven't played it. It's fantastic. It's harrowing, though. It's like it's emotionally draining. Honestly. Like, it's absolutely worth looking at. It's taken a lot of like Neil Druckmann's taken a lot of criticism because he's like an Israel guy. I think he's from Israel, and you know, there's a lot you can look at Last of Us 2 and kind of see it as kind of like a somewhat clumsy allegory for like Israel and Palestinians. And I think that there's a criticism to be made there, even though he is a like pro-Israel dipshit, Neil Druckmann. Yeah, it's the cycle of violence thing. It's not this like one-sided narrative about like Israel good, Palestinians bad or something like that. I think it's, if anything, it's this kind of reductive, like mutually reinforcing trauma leading to this endless cycle of violence and revenge kind of thing, which I don't think is a good analogy for Israel-Palestine either. But it's at least not this some kind of like pro-IDF narrative, I don't think. You know, people just don't know how to stop killing. Exactly. Yeah, I really loved it as well. That's the thing. I think there's definitely a criticism to be made there, especially if you want to have that kind of like real sort of allegory about it. People can and should criticize that. Overall, still, I really enjoyed the game, though. You know? Even though Neil Druckmann is a dipshit, though. It should be mentioned. Big time dipshit. But I like the game. Truly, I am a man of contrasts. I am looking forward to season 2. If it does get into some of those Last of Us 2 storylines, it's going to be fucking harrowing. Because there's some rough shit in there. There's a whole philosophy section about separating art from the artist. You can enjoy well-made things for sure, and also everyone has their own personal like line where it becomes impossible, right? And I wouldn't judge anyone else for if that was the line for someone. I wouldn't judge anyone for that. I think everyone had, like, there's a lot of artists that have fucked up personal views, have done fucked up things in their lives, and for some people it's just this red line that you can't go back to. Like, there's certainly artists that I have enjoyed in the past that I don't look at their work anymore, you know, because I can no longer make that separation. I think everyone else has kind of a different line of where that is. Ellie's self-destructive bloodlust made me root for Abby. Well, that was one. I don't want to get too into the spoilers, but because especially if people are into the TV show, I don't want to spoil what happens. But it does do a somewhat evil kind of storytelling device where it tells the story from one side, and then
you're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
2 years of friendship triangle.
Sikalufakis, thanks for so much for 24 months of Prime. 2 entire years of friendship triangle for Sikalufakis. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Enjoy the 2-year shimmering golden sub badge, Sikalufakis. No, it does do a really evil kind of storytelling device, though, where it's like you play through the whole story, and then you have like an antagonist that you've been kind of like conditioned to hate, and then you go back to the beginning and play the story through the antagonist's eyes and develop a whole lot of sympathy for their perspective, and you're like, oh shit, oh man. I think what's kind of interesting about the Last of Us games is it puts you in a situation like morally as like the person who's controlling the protagonist, and you have the protagonist like acting in ways sometimes that makes you uncomfortable for being part of it, which is something that I'm not really used to in a game. Like that's the whole ending of The Last of Us. In some games, it would give you a kind of choice of doing one thing or the other thing, but in The Last of Us, it's like, no, you're doing this really fucked up thing, and you have to think about as the person that's controlling it, like what that means. You know, I kind of like that. I'd never really experienced a game like that, where you have the character that you're controlling acting these fucked up ways, and you're kind of playing and going like, I don't approve of this. Like, what the fuck? The hell's this? And I think number 2 really like elevates that a lot. I totally get that. The line for me with Steely Dan was, I couldn't in good conscience support a duo that committed a string of killings across the Midwest in search for the perfect jazz note. Listen, if Don and Walter decided they needed to go on a string of Midwestern killings in order to find the note, I'm sure they had good reason, okay? And if you listen to it, I'm sure you would be like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. That sounds pretty good. Seeing Ellie's character at the end felt like seeing a close friend go through addiction. Yeah, it's just... You're just like, stop. Just stop. Please. Please just stop. You know? Anyway, I don't want to spoil too much about it because it's like, the season 2 is going to come out fairly soon. I don't want to spoil it for people. Why am I orange? I'm just wearing an orange t-shirt, Orb Lady. It's just the t-shirt that I'm wearing. Am I also orange? I guess I have my light there. Not very bright though. Alice Cooper, a 70s glam rock icon, having the gall to deride trans people as just being trendy. It's absolutely sad how people like that come all the way around to being the very conservative scolds that they were like using to build their careers like in the 60s and 70s by being transgressive and subversive, and then they become those people. They become the people scolding people for not being normal enough, you know? There's a dang orange in the stream house. Oh my. My TV looks oversaturated, but you're fine on my phone. Good. Good. I'm very sleepy already. Why? I'm just tired all the time, folks. I'm tired all the fucking time. On my TV, you look like the videographer for Ultraviolet. Did your camera set up? Maybe they did. You don't know that they didn't. The only thing I thoroughly like about The Last of Us is the multiplayer, which was added in part 2. It's strange that it wasn't. Like, it's kind of bizarre. It was really popular. And it was like a really cool, it was one of the cooler multiplayers. It's bizarre that it wasn't added in number 2 with all the different weapons and stuff you can do in that. Really strange. They just canceled it? How are they canceling multiplayer for a game that came out like 4 fucking years ago now? Oh, excuse me. Excuse me, folks. It was supposed to be a standalone thing. That's weird. I would like to replay the Uncharted games at some point. I absolutely love the Uncharted games. Those would be fun to do on stream, actually. Streaming The Last of Us, the first one, is how I got started here on Twitch. It was one of the first big things that I did. I streamed the entire game. Although I don't think I think one clip permit remains, but in like 2019, 2020. I am very oversaturated on Orb Ladies TV. Wow. I am orange. She wasn't kidding. Okay, I can do this. I already had 2 cups of coffee and a Coke, so I don't know if I can have more caffeine. I'm not sure. The nap stream. Would people subscribe if I just slept? If I just turned the camera on and just went to sleep on my sofa? Do you think if I woke up at like 3:30 that the subs would be filled up? I could do that. I could just put my camera over there and just lie down and scroll my phone for a little while. I'm honestly kind of open to it. People have been begging for a nap cam. I'm telling you, people don't want to see me sleep. Okay? You don't. Some guy I follow but never really watch has been doing an uncapped subathon for over a month. I go tier 3 for a napping Rob. I'm really like low energy headed into the new year, honestly. I'm kind of limping across the finish line. I think I am an ugly sleeper. Yeah, I don't know, because I'm sleeping. I make a lot of weird sounds. I don't think it would be good. I don't think I would feel very comfortable with that. I was going to recommend a drug for energy, but I remembered Canada might have actual good laws, but I take ephedrine when coffee doesn't get me through the day. I wish you could just get amphetamines at the pharmacy. Like, that's medicine. Why do they want to take away our medicine? Why can't I just go buy some fucking amphetamines at the grocery store or the drugstore? I sometimes wake up and the bed is almost still made. Other times the pillows are on the floor at the foot of my bed. I don't know how to affect this. Sometimes my mattress seems to move too. It's like, what am I doing in my sleep that my fucking mattress is moving? Like, that's just weird. That's just bizarre. Yeah, I'm kind of just limping across the finish line here, folks. I'm not a lot of energy. I told you this week is like tiring. Lucid's colonized the dining room and the kitchen for his GD Christmas baking. You're calling it GD Christmas baking, and you're going to be eating all the stuff, Orb Lady. What's up with that? I swear to God, my wife does 2 to 3 alligator death rolls in her sleep. I've started tucking in the comforter in an effort to have any coverage by morning. Yeah, I mean, my son comes to sleep with me pretty often, and he just, well, every night basically, depending on the time. Sometimes earlier in the night, sometimes more towards the morning, but at some point he's coming in there. He's a big fan of taking away the blankets. I love waking up shivering because I got a big fucking 8-year-old kid there, just like just having the time of his life, relaxed, warm. And me, the adult man, I'm shivering there in the corner. He takes my blankets. Beta dad, Chad 8-year-old. That's kind of how the dynamic is, yeah. My younger son came into the bed last night. How old's he? Dakadoon. I have to have my own blanket when sharing the bed, or the other person will just keep trying to wrestle it from me all night. He's 37, yeah. I feel like sometimes my son's going to be sleeping with me when he is 37. I don't know. Sometimes it feels that way. The only downside is you can't really make the bed the same way. We just fold them both up next to each other. That's interesting. That's an interesting dynamic. Y'all got to do military corners. It feels like you're sleeping in a hotel. It keeps the covers where they're supposed to be. I don't like the big tuck, though. I don't like the big, when it's all tucked like that. I want to have a leg free sometimes. You know, sometimes you want to be fully wrapped up, but then with the one leg out. I want to have space to move around my feet there a little bit. Oh, Marty, that's so sweet. Yeah, fellas, is it gay to have sweet little rituals that you do with your wife? The gayest thing I do, one tuck and one no tuck. That's right. The gayest thing I do every night is when I come to bed and Clues is asleep, I make sure that the outside of my foot is touching at least her foot so that when I go to sleep, she can come with me in my dreams, Marty says. Good Lord. Good Lord here. What is happening? That is very cute. It's very cute. That's it. I guess maybe that's just a reflection of my mindset. I'm just thinking about like sleeping and being in bed. I think that's all I would like to do right now if it was up to me. If it was up to me, I would probably just be lying there. Marty is the streamer now for being more cute than Rob. It's actually illegal to be more cute than me, though, when you're in the chat. So if anyone is like approaching high cute levels now, you got to pull back from that. You got to pump the brakes on that. You got to pump the brakes. You're not allowed to be cuter than me, okay? I did that all this morning. I am jealous. Yes. I am jealous. Because I had to get up this morning and like make lunch for my kid and help him finish some stuff, get him ready, bring him to school, all that stuff. It's not the same. When you go and wake up in the morning and go do a bunch of stuff and then you come back and lie down again, it's just not the same. You know? That's not what I want. It's not the same thing. I did a little bit of that today, but it's just nowhere near the same level of kind of satisfying. I will grow to resent my child not because of anything they'll do, because I have to wake up and do shit. Man, you have to do so much shit. And you know what? I don't resent my child for that. I don't. You know, I love my son a lot. You do be doing a lot of shit, though. I mean, there's just no getting around that. There's no getting around that. I used to be a night owl schedule. You know? I'd go to sleep when like I could see the sun was coming up and I could hear birds. When I started hearing birds, that's like, okay, now it's time to almost go to sleep here. And I'd wake up at like 1 or 2 in the afternoon. It definitely eats up your time and energy. It's exhausting, but it's worth it. Exactly. You have to do a lot. And I don't even do as much shit as a lot of people do. Like a lot of parents and like kids that I know are always doing activities and sports and stuff. And they have the like dance class on Tuesday and hockey on Thursday and whatever on the weekend. It's like, fuck, I can't do that shit. I cannot do that. I don't think anyone would benefit from having that kind of schedule. I don't think anyone would be happy about that. I literally could not do that. I could maybe throw in one activity, maybe. Maybe I could do one activity, like a swimming or something. But like when I see parents running around like this all the time, I'm just like, God damn. I don't know. I don't know how to do it. Running my kids to activities is about 20 hours of my week. Nancy, my goodness. God, I love waking up at 6 on Saturday for hockey practice. I know. You know? And I guess, you know, my kid's young, so if he does that stuff, it's where he's getting put in it, you know? It would be one thing if he was like, I'm passionate about this, and I really want to do this. Can you sign me up for this activity? Then it's like, sure, yeah, of course. Of course. But I don't think anyone would benefit from it right now from him just like getting put in a bunch of stuff. I feel so inadequate when it comes to the extracurricular shit. It was so refreshing talking to a parent at a birthday party. We were both saying it's hard enough making dinner and getting them to bed on time. Seriously, old Dutch. And I'm trying to just like work on some like creative projects, or let's draw a comic book or a picture together. Let's make a little movie like that. Like that I can do at my own house, you know, at my own apartment. I'll work on stuff. We could do it here. Okay. We'll hang out here and work on something there. I feel a little bit bad when it's just a lazy day of like not doing all that much and like nothing really gets accomplished and it's a lot of screen time and stuff. I always end up feeling shitty about that. So try to have some kind of a balance where we're not running around for 20 hours a week or whatever it is, but we're also maybe still trying to do some stuff that's not just like, you know, sitting around. You know, I've really debated about how much I should talk about this. You know, if you're in the community, you might know what I'm referring to here. I feel really strange talking about it. I have this stream where I talk about my life and I talk about a lot of things, but there's whole big parts of my personal life over the last year or two that I just never really talked about. And I don't really want to, and I think this is hopefully going to be the first and last time I address this, but I do feel like I need to say this in order to continue talking about my life so that it makes sense. My heart is like pounding right now, actually, even saying this. But I think this is part of the reason that I'm having a bit of a hard time this year. Not because it's like really bad and everything's really awful, but last year I moved out of my house. Which is something that I didn't really talk about at the time. It was a really, really shitty time. I was very, very unhappy during this period. I was trying to show up here and still put in the work of doing this stream every day, you know. But I had a lot of really bad shit going on. And I think that's part of the reason that I'm having a bit of a hard time right now, is just because it's like the first holiday season that's in this new kind of like environment. And that's just going to take a little bit of getting used to, I think. And it's like fine, you know, I'm doing well. This is like where I am right now is where I live. I live here by myself, but I'm with my kid half of the time. And I think that's part of the reason why this year is like extra difficult, I think. Because it's just this new thing. It's going to take getting used to. I don't know. It was weird. I don't really want to talk about this. I know I'm entitled to a private life, and like I don't really want to talk about painful personal shit that I have going on. But at the same time, I feel like at some point I just have to like reference this so people understand that that's what's going on. You know what I mean? If I started talking about other details about my life, all of a sudden it would be like, oh, what? That doesn't make sense. That I don't get it. You know, so I feel like I should mention that. The streams are always chill regardless. Well, Alexander, honestly, this stream has been like a somewhat of a sanctuary for me over the last couple of years. There's definitely been periods over the last 3 years plus of doing this show that I, on a personal level, I have not been doing very well. But I was always able to show up here each and every day and talk about the things that we talk about and hanging out with you guys and doing the things we do. And it makes me feel comfortable, makes me feel confident, you know. Thank you for sharing as well, Dude Control. That's it. I don't really want to continue talking about this. I don't really want to like make a habit of talking about weird, bad personal shit that I have going on, but that's what's been happening. So if if I'm ever talking about things that maybe contradict certain like ideas that you may have had about what my whole situation was, that's the reason why. Really appreciate your political analysis and your empathy and your openness. Thank you for sharing. I'll go ahead and add that add this to a RedTube wiki. Don't worry about it. Oh my God. It's like, I feel weird. I feel weird having shit about my personal life, like talking about it. And it's weird because it's like, it's a stream and I talk about my life all the time. And but it's like, you know, it's bizarre. I don't want to get into this like painful shit that I've had going on. So I just mentioned that because like it's kind of like an elephant in the room. It's kind of like a big change that's happened in my life over the last year, and I just haven't really mentioned it or addressed it. And that's why I'm having a little bit of a weird. It's not like I wasn't having weird times previous to the last couple of holiday seasons, but that is one of the reasons why I think it's just weird for me this year. Anyway, this is hopefully the first and last time that I will mention this. It's the first and last time that I'll mention this. We can move on now. We can move on. My heart was pounding even talking about that. Oh my goodness. We see you and hear you sincerely. Thank you, Moss. Do you need to? No, I don't need to. I don't wear antiperspirant, actually. I put a little deodorant, but I don't wear antiperspirant. I'm not really like a super sweaty, stinky guy, honestly. I'm not. Thinking of suing Marcus? Good. I agree with suing Marcus. I don't know the reason why, but I think it's probably a good thing to do. I think it would be a good thing to do that. He's not a super sweaty, stinky guy. He's a super sweetie, stinky guy. Thank you. Thank you, Marty. Because he subjects us to C-SPAN. That's true. Yeah, that should be a reason. That should be a reason to go after Marcus. I saw a little bit of something this morning. There was like someone doing like a poem or something like that. Someone was doing like a C-SPAN poem. It was really pretty painful stuff. Thank you, Dapper Cat. I appreciate that. That's it. I mean, I'm perfectly comfortable just not talking about things in my life that are fucked up and I don't want to talk about, but I just feel like it's after a certain point I just have to mention probably that my life is like totally fucking different than it was 18 months ago. But that's okay. It's not even bad, you know? It's like I'm doing very well. And now the news.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
It's been very
Keep on
weathery.
truckin'.
Thank you, Dude Control. Thank you, Dude Control, for 4 months of tier 1. It has been very weathery. It's pretty cold. Not like cold. I am wearing long johns today, though, so I'm kind of overheating a little bit right now, actually. Oh, let's see here. Let's see what we have on the docket. I heard somewhere Montreal's going on strike. Yeah, we got a lot of strikes going on in Montreal right now. Like the English Teachers Union was on strike. We've had healthcare workers on strike. In other news, my outside toilet kind of collapsed. You got an outside toilet, Dave. I did not know that was a thing. What is that? What is an outside toilet? It's just a big hole. Kissinger's grave. Or I think Dave's British, so it could be Thatcher's grave. Well, I mean, I get that it's a toilet that's outside. Like, I'm familiar with the concept, I think, but it's like you don't hear a lot about outside toilets these days, you know? Not with cancel culture like how it is. You don't hear enough about this. My cats have been sleeping all touching me, 5 of them, because it's cold here finally. That sounds kind of nice. I've been wondering whether I should get a cat, you know? I love cats. I absolutely love cats. I love having cats. I must say, it's been a little nice, as someone who's had cats for the last, like, many years, it's been kind of nice to not have a cat for just a little bit, you know? It's been a little nice to just have no cat or no anything. So I don't know. I did see there was an ad for a cat to be adopted in Montreal, and his name was Clovis. And I was like, oh, Clovis. You look like such a sweetie, too. But, I don't know. It's a great name. Well, Momo's fine, Diego. I just don't live with Momo anymore. That's the issue. Momo's doing very well, though. I still see Momo all the time. And I take her to her grooming appointments. I get her special food. That tee looks so good in red. The one that I'm wearing right now? This is actually orange, but I don't know if you're referring to a different shirt that you have. Clovis. I know, ground level news. Clovis. I couldn't believe that. I probably made a mistake not picking up Clovis, honestly. Oh, this is orange, Dave. I think you gotta I got some weird saturation problems going on right now. On the video, on the picture that Orb Lady sent, I look pretty red on there as well. What's going on? Saturation problems, plus I'm muted. Looks orange to me. He's orange. It's like the dress. The dress. Saturation problems plus muted plus L plus ratio. Maybe I should just turn my camera around and just aim it at the sofa and go lie down on the sofa and look at TikTok. Maybe we should just do that today. Let's watch Man Tracker. I think I could share my phone screen to the stream, although I don't think I could figure that out right now. The Man Tracker bit was quite fun. That was a fun little brief obsession on this show. Aries broke now. You could track himself up some more income, I guess. He should start a new gig economy tracking job, and you can just hire him to track people. Tracker, like without the E. And you can just hire a Man Tracker for different tasks. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. We could also watch the 92 Royal Rumble in its entirety. That was a good one. That was a really good one. You should do some on-the-ground interviews in New Year's at protests. Yeah, I mean, like, my old phone was so shitty, and I just got this new phone, so now, like, in theory, I could actually go and do some more live streaming because I can have a battery that's going to last longer than, like, 20 minutes. And a better camera and a better microphone and stuff. Hello, small, cute frog. Hello. I quite liked this this Punk and Rollins segment. Let's see this here.
Every single person back in that locker room, and then you want to walk back in here and call this place your home. This is not your home. This is my home. George.
Oh shit.
I've never asked for anything to be handed to me, and I've always done things stubbornly the hard way. I am not here to do that. Adam Pierce, we're
Punk looks good.
We're making things official. We might as well make it official. Mickey Mouse is entering the Royal Rumble. And when Mickey Mouse wins, Maybe, Goof. It's you he's coming after, huh?
I like that. I like despite just ignoring everything about that promo with the voices and everything. I like the idea of a Punk versus Rollins Mania program. I think that'd be great. I'm looking forward to that. I think it'll be cool. Okay, so what else am I going to put on here? Is it goofy of them to just do the Hangman promo? But the difference is, though, they probably talked about this promo ahead of time and had it laid out. So you didn't have Hangman blindsiding the biggest star in the company and treating him like he's some piece of shit. And also the top babyface, and suggesting that he's like secretly evil or something. I don't know. We're not getting started. We're not going down this road, though. That was you. You tried to provoke me, James. That was on you. Okay, I'm not going down this road. I told you I don't do the factionalism. I don't do the wrestling factionalism. I hope everyone just has a good. Yes, I hope the five chatters that understand this are having a good time. I don't. I like it all. You know, I was wearing my Young Bucks T-shirt the other day. I love Punk. I love Kenny Omega. I like the fact that there's other wrestling companies out there doing stuff. I think that's fantastic. No factionalism over here. I don't do factionalism. I just support CM Punk unconditionally. That's right. Well, the thing is, but I don't hate the people that he like has beefs with, or that he starts these like narcissistic battles with. You know, I'll take his side, but I'm not like, oh, fuck them. You know, Kenny Omega, I hate that guy. I do factionalism and hate CM Punk unconditionally, so it's really a yin-yang situation. I'm sorry to hear that. That's really quite a predicament for you. Okay. I should put something on here. What do we have to look at here? Let me find some stuff for us to look at. It's good to know, Marty. Good to know that you support the career of billionaire heiress Stephanie McMahon. Good to know. And it says a lot about you. Let's just leave it at that. I would give it all away for Steph. Let's be honest. That's fair. She's a self-made heir. That's right. You were sending 3 whole guys to the Red Sea. This is actually quite funny. This is the big coalition. Operation Prosperity Guardian, which, like as we were pointing out yesterday, the U.S. doesn't even, like, they can't get the Saudis on board with that. Here's the coalition. This is real, like, coalition of the willing hours. Remember that? Like all the coalition of the willing and all the like total bullshit sham that was. I really think sometimes, like, going back to the Bush era, like, we talk about Trump like it's the first sign of this, like, collapse of the empire or whatever, or signs of like instability in the system. But I think we underestimate how insane 2000 to 2008 was. Like, don't we? Like, from the stolen election to 9/11 to Iraq and Afghanistan and the Patriot Act and the black site CIA torture prisons and Abu Ghraib and stuff, with the capped off with the collapse of the whole financial system. I think Trump kind of like made us underrate how fucking insane and criminal the Bush era was. You know? We view Trump as being some kind of like outlier or something like that. Yeah, for a lot, Bush was the awakening for that millions of people around the world, including me as well. Lucid is putting anus extract into my baked goods. Isn't that just like raspberry flavoring? Isn't that what they get it from? They get it from like raccoon anuses or something like that? It took Bush hugging Michelle Obama for half her country to forgive him. Yeah, for sure. And it's one of the things that I think you realize with social media and TikTok, and especially, it's like more people are able to talk about this stuff. But I think we underrate those years, those Bush years, as being totally insane and criminal, you know? It is totally vibes based that anyone thinks Trump is worse than Bush or Reagan. You can even go back even further. Reagan, you got this like senile Hollywood actor with like taking advice from his like dream interpreter and completely changing the entire global economic system. Like, that is insane. You know? We talk about Trump like he's an outlier, and it's like, Jesus Christ. Bush was so much worse. Trump is merely offensive. Well, and it gets into what we talk about often about how like a lot of the reason that people hate Trump, not only is it because of social media and being plugged into this news cycle at all times and having a little glowing rectangle in your pocket that constantly transmits the crazy news into your brain. But it's about just saying the stuff. Like, it's not even about what he does. It's just saying the things, saying the bad thing, like being open and honest and upfront about the American sort of death machine. Yeah, we were. I mean, if you're that age, young mantic, we all were that lib that thought Obama was gonna fix things, and in a way, he did. That's the thing that I pointed out the other day when in that tweet when I talked about our empire, and everyone got mad because I'm Canadian. It's like, yeah, fucking, I know, thank you. But the way that like after the American empire was just totally discredited after Bush, and the way Obama came in, kept all the systems in place, didn't prosecute anyone in the financial sector or in the political world. Continued a lot of the same barbaric policies, but gave it this veneer of like progress. He really kept the whole thing afloat for like a full 8 years, just on the basis of his own charisma, you know? That's really why Obama is probably one of the most evil and most radicalizing political figures of my life. Like, in a way, if we can talk about all we want about how radicalizing the Bush era was, but like the Obama era was like even more radicalizing, you know? Because then you get the disappointment, and then you get like the contradiction between the words and the rhetoric and the actual actions, and being made to feel that you're insane and you're a bad person and you're selfish for wanting it to be better. I remember people got mad at me again, like a couple years ago, when I said that Reagan was worse than Trump, and all these cooler than cool like Brooklyn podcast guys were like, boo, getting mad at me. I'm sorry to be so bitter about those people. I shouldn't be bitter, and I always bring this up, but it's like I can't help it because it really fucking annoys me. But yeah, the idea that Trump is worse than Reagan, who totally changed the entire global financial system. I'm driven crazy by this weekly. They cry about Trump trying to steal the election. Bush literally did it, and no one gives a shit. What's the amazing thing too, James, is that like I sometimes feel that if the Trump and Biden election, if it had just come down to one state, the conservative establishment probably would have gotten on board with Trump stealing the election, and they probably would have just been like, yeah, that's fine. Just go ahead and steal it and we'll back you up. It's just you can't do that when you're 4 states behind, but if you're 1 state behind, you absolutely can, and they probably would have backed him. And what would Joe Biden have done? Would he have complained? He would have said, no, I'll just like Al Gore, I'll graciously concede to preserve these institutions. Oh, excuse me. But anyway, going back to this like whole Operation Prosperity Guardian, after the UN, and they said, oh, here's all the countries that are going to be involved, including Canada. In response to the operations being carried out by Yemen in support of occupied Palestine and the people of Gaza, some nations have announced their contributions to the U.S. plan, and it does not look as generous as Washington may have hoped for. The U.S. announced it would be deploying 3 destroyers, while the UK would deploy a singular destroyer to the Red Sea. Other European nations seemed less enthusiastic to send their men to yet another futile war for the sake of the American imperialist agenda. Italy announced it will be deploying a frigate with no personnel. Canada announced it will send 3 staff officers. You're welcome, America. See, we're helping. You're welcome. Please clap. We're sending you 3 guys. We're sending you 3 guys over here. The Netherlands announced it will be deploying a frigate with no personnel. Other countries have yet to announce their contributions. That's so funny. We're going to send 3 guys.
And have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
I'm sending 3 dudes to grab everyone burgers for the mission.
That would be actually helpful, Lucid. Thank you so much for 23 months tier 1, Lucid, and for all the support and everything. That would actually be helpful. What are these Canadian staff officers going to do? They're just going to stand there and be like, oh, yes. The Houthis. Surveying the damage, surveying the boats. Yes. That is a boat. That's right. That is indeed a boat. They're sending their best. The famous 2 Michaels and a 3rd unknown Michael. That's how you know that's how powerful it could be. You know how powerful it is when 2 Michaels come together. Well, what about 3 Michaels? Let me see if I can find the tweet. I saw a tweet that just totally fucked me up about this. This is one of the most like peasant mentality things I've ever seen in my fucking life. The Yemeni Houthis released this video to threaten the US. Seriously, do yourself a favor, turn up the volume and watch this masterpiece for a good laugh. Then this guy says, Jerry Avename says, Yemeni Houthis are about to find out why America doesn't have free healthcare. Like, this is the most pathetic peasant mentality thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, this guy's saying, like, yeah, America, fuck yeah. We spend billions of dollars on this military equipment and don't actually improve people's material conditions in our society. So we can violently and ruthlessly enforce our economic hegemony, which doesn't benefit the average person, but benefits the CEOs and shareholders for all these multinational corporations. Yeah. Like, why are you bragging about that? Also, it's true. It's like, when have the Americans actually won a war? Like, can we even remember? When was the last time America has won a war? It doesn't actually happen very often, despite all these trillions of dollars that they spend on all this shit. They don't actually do a whole lot of winning when it comes to actually fighting with these things. I couldn't believe this post. Yeah, we don't have healthcare. We have this. Okay, good. We spend trillions of dollars on this so we can go after these guys with like homemade rocket launchers wearing sandals and tracksuits who are like commandeering boats in the Red Sea. Like, that's not something to brag about. These soldiers are going to get some nice Raytheon executive, a nice bonus. I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, America was supplying Saudi Arabia with vehicles and weaponry just like this for the last 10 years, and they lost to the Houthis. So what are you even bragging about? It's not like the Houthis haven't been dealing with this for the last 10 years. They've been fighting a brutal occupation for the last 10 years that's been subsidized with these exact kinds of weapons and vehicles. And they have not lost. And in fact, they're completely destabilizing our whole empire right now as a result. Vietnam was also supposed to find out why America doesn't have healthcare. And now Vietnam beat America's ass and has healthcare. So figure that out. From his Wikipedia, he's a mental health advocate and bragging about America not having healthcare. That's good. In Blinken's message yesterday, they're really starting to spell out the whole war as a racket part out pretty clearly. The rhetoric is now that this military aid means good jobs. Feels new that they're being so transparent about that. Yeah, for sure. And it's in that Blinken speech as well, still framing Israel as being a victim after 20,000 people killed. Like, it's truly amazing that you can even say this. Again, like, I just don't understand these people, these absolute delusional liars.
Israel has been very clear, including as recently as today, that it would welcome returning to a pause in the further release of hostages. The problem was and has been and remains Hamas. They reneged on commitments that they made during the first pause for hostage releases. And the question is whether they are in fact willing to resume this effort. We believe that, as we said from the outset, Israel has not only a right but an obligation to defend itself.
No, it doesn't.
And to try to make sure that October 7th never happens again. Any other country in the world faced with what Israel suffered.
Everything Israel's doing right now is ensuring that there will be another October 7th. So that's a completely silly position to begin with.
October 7th would do the same thing.
No, they wouldn't.
What is striking to me is that even as, again, we hear...
no, they wouldn't do the same thing. There's many examples of this, actually.
To this conflict, which we would all like to see, I hear virtually no one demanding of Hamas that it stop hiding behind civilians, that it lay down its arms, that it surrender. This is over tomorrow if Hamas does that. This would have been over a month ago. They can just release all their hostages. Israel can. Hamas had done that. And how can it be that there are no demands made of the aggressor and only demands made of the victim?
The aggressor and the victim, according to Anthony Blinken. What absolute bullshit that is. The aggressor and the victim in this situation. Like, who can after the last 2 months, honestly, go out there and make that case? Like, it's just absolutely gross. It's just grotesque. No, Israel would not stop if Hamas surrendered. Like, just everything that they've done is an indication that nothing that they're doing has anything to do with Hamas. They're not going after Hamas. They're not waging a war on Hamas. They're waging a war on Palestinian children. And they're the victim. Like, that really just sums up the entire ridiculousness of this entire propaganda technique to begin with. Everything that they do, we're the victim. We're the victim. It's like you're the high school bully just like beating the shit out of one of the students and shoving him in a locker and being like, stop victimizing me. Why did you make me do this? You pick on the kid all year, pick on this kid all year, bully this kid. He finally pops you in the mouth, and then you fucking beat him half to death. Like, I'm the victim of this. Why did you make me? Why are you made me do this? Why are you victimizing me this way? You know, absolutely sick. Like, I don't even know how you could go on there and say that. And UN demanding another ceasefire, which of course the U.S. also still continuing to vote against.
News is funded by viewers like you. Please support our work at democracynow.org/give. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Nermeen Sheikh.
The United Nations Security Council has, for the third time this week, postponed a vote on a resolution calling for a halt to the fighting in Gaza and for Israel to allow shipments of food, water, fuel and medicine into the besieged territory. Several Security Council members have expressed frustration with the United States for repeatedly delaying votes and for threatening to once again veto any resolution.
We're joined now by Phyllis Bennis, fellow at the Institute for Policy Studies, serves as an international advisor for Jewish Voice for Peace. Phyllis has written a number of books, including Understanding the Palestinian-Israeli Conflict, her recent piece for In These Times, headlined The Christmas Truce of 1914 and the Demand for a Ceasefire in Gaza. As we went to air today, Phyllis, there is no resolution at this point at the UN. One is expected today, but we said that Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. If you can talk about what's going on there, and then we can talk about that Christmas truce.
I'm going to get an apple. 1 sec.
This is, in some ways, a very old story. The United States refuses to accept a globally demanded ceasefire in the context of Israeli assaults, particularly on Gaza. And we've seen it before. We're seeing it again now. The U.S. is refusing to allow the term cessation of hostilities. They certainly will not allow the term ceasefire to be used. They want to talk about a suspension of hostilities, meaning just a temporary pause like we saw 2 weeks ago to allow in a certain amount of aid, reduce the pressure on Israel, get some of the hostages released, and then go back to the Israeli assault and kill more thousands of Palestinians, presumably. So what we're looking at is the question of whether the other members of the Security Council will be able to persuade the U.S., and I think this is very doubtful, to change their position and allow decent language about a real cessation of hostilities or a ceasefire. And if they don't, will the Council go ahead and force the United States to use its veto, something the U.S. does not like to do, or will it essentially collapse under its own pressure and simply withdraw the resolution and say, well, we couldn't get the U.S. on board, so we're not going to go forward? The issue then becomes whether you're letting the U.S. off the hook by saying we will simply, we'll simply withdraw the resolution, or do you force the U.S. to use its veto, which then has consequences, including sending the resolution off to the General Assembly, where it passes under very particular conditions that can make it much more influential and, by some arguments by legal scholars, perhaps enforceable like a Security Council resolution would be. So that's where the Council is right now.
And Phyllis, so if you could explain that, because normally a General Assembly vote is not legally binding in the way that a Security Council vote is, which is why there's so much emphasis on what the Security Council does.
The particularity here, Nermeen, is that when the U.S. or any other of the 5 permanent members of the Council actually uses a veto, a new regulation at the UN that was passed a couple of years ago requires that the General Assembly then meet within 10 days to take up that same issue. You know, ordinarily this is very closely held. The Security Council deals with threats to peace and security around the world. The General Assembly can deal with everything else. But when one of the 5 permanent members, in this case, of course, the United States, uses its veto on an issue of peace and security, under those conditions, the General Assembly is required to hold an emergency session, and it's held under what's known
interesting how that works,
as
right,
the Uniting for
Svidler?
Peace precedent. This was something the UN was forced to accept back in 1951 at the instigation, ironically, of the United States. It's how the U.S. got the United Nations to endorse its war in Korea. And under those conditions, the decisions made by the General Assembly, which officially are considered non-binding, not enforceable, take on additional power because it's derivative of United Nations Security Council power. So the decisions are uncertain whether it's really enforceable, but it's a much stronger resolution in the General Assembly if it follows a veto in the Security Council. That's one of the big reasons why the United States does not like to use its veto if it can avoid it. The other reason, of course, is that it shows the world just how isolated the United States now is. The U.S. and
isolated
Israel
and
stand
extremist.
alone. The vote in the General Assembly on a very similar resolution was 153 countries out of 193 who voted yes, and only 10 countries, including the U.S. and Israel, voted no. And under those circumstances, it really demonstrates the isolation of the U.S., and that's not something that the Biden administration is eager to be showing up again.
Well, if you could say, Phyllis, I mean, talk about the significance of U.S. support. Explain why it's so strident despite what's happening in Gaza. And also the fact that when Biden did lightly criticize Israel for its indiscriminate bombardment, saying that it was losing international support, the Israeli foreign minister very quickly said that Israel would continue, quote, with
rogue
or
states,
without
extremists,
international support.
terrorists.
Your response to that, I mean, is that accurate, you think?
Right. Well, I think what is true is that the United States has made a number of polite requests of the Israeli government. They have said, please stop killing so many people. What you're doing is okay. Using massive bombardment is okay. But try and pull back a little bit, maybe change the tactics.
Try and stop killing so many people.
So that you're not killing quite so many civilians. It doesn't look good.
Wink, wink.
But there are no consequences when the Israeli response, as you just said from Prime Minister Netanyahu or others, is simply, no, we're going to continue what
Twitch
we're doing.
6935. I know, I understand. It's like, it's gaslighting, right? It really is. Like, it's as much as I think that term has become overused, I think it's a perfect description, because it's designed to make you feel insane. It really is. It's designed to make you question the very reality that you see. You question your own eyes and ears and your own mind.
There's no way that Israel feels compelled to respond to that.
Like when Anthony Blinken says, oh, they're the victim. No one's thinking about the victim in this.
Requirements. And
the victim in this. No one's thinking about the victim. It's unbelievable. The victim who have just killed who have killed 20,000 people in the last 2 months. They're the victim. No one's thinking about the victim. No one's thinking about the aggressor. If you're not careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing. There's no greater example of it than this.
Requirements come with conditions that make a difference. So that when the United States says, you've got to stop bombing Gaza, you're killing civilians and it's illegal under international law, you've got to stop. And Israel says, nope, we're going to continue. Then the next sentence out of the mouth of President Biden or Secretary of State Blinken or whoever is relaying that message is, okay, then you know those billions of dollars we send to your military every year? You can kiss that goodbye. And you know how we've been protecting you at the International Criminal Court so you're never held accountable for war crimes? We're not doing that anymore. So those are the kinds of things that will begin to have a real impact on Israel.
You can't do that. They've been victimized. They're victims.
That the Biden position,
you're going to take the side of the
abuser diplomacy, where the symbolism of his embrace physically and politically
it is frustrating,
of Netanyahu and the Israeli state is, we have your back, we will protect you no matter what, but please make a few amendments. They have no reason to take that seriously because the U.S. doesn't express it seriously.
I want to turn to U.S. Secretary of State Tony Blinken speaking Wednesday in D.C. at a State Department briefing.
I hear virtually no one saying,
oh, God,
demanding,
not again.
us, that it stop hiding behind civilians, that it
Yeah,
lay
start
down its
using your
arms,
military
that it
bases
surrendered.
that you have.
This is over tomorrow if Hamas does
It's
that.
not over
This would
tomorrow,
have been
Anthony
over
Blinken.
A month ago, 6 weeks ago.
This motherfucker.
If Hamas had done that. And how can it be that there are no demands made of the aggressor and only demands made of the victim?
Phyllis Bennis, your response.
The absolute disgrace.
You know, it's ironic that the Secretary of State of Israel's biggest supporter, the provider of 20% of its entire military budget, among other things, will move forward to say that there's the need for the people of Gaza, because this war is against the people of Gaza. It is not just against Hamas. That's simply not the case. The notion that the U.S. is saying that the demand should be made on Hamas, when it's been the United States backing of Israel that has allowed Israel to impose a siege on Gaza for 17 years. We should be clear, this siege did not begin on October 7th. It was escalated after the atrocities that were committed on October 7th, for sure.
Even if he wasn't lying about Hamas, he's talking about continued killing of 2/3 women and children. Absolutely wild. He's talking about the collective punishment. The collective punishment of all these tens of thousands of civilians is going to just continue, fully unless they surrender. And if not, Israel's just going to continue killing tens of thousands of civilians. That's all. Journalists and doctors and nurses and teachers, ambulance drivers, entire families.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to
like
talk
they're
you
just
through all
they're
this.
making an explicit case for collective punishment of civilians who are in a prison camp. Like, just to be clear, remember, like, it's a prison camp. It's a concentration camp. Yeah, now it's an extermination camp. Diego, thank you for the gifted sub. I appreciate it. These people are just awful.
Sure. But this had been going on for 17 years, harshly enough that 20% of all children in Gaza were stunted by the age of 2 because they could not get sufficient food necessary for children to thrive. That was way before October 7th. So we have to look at this in the context of the ongoing war that Israel has been waging in Gaza, against the people of Palestine. And it's a war that has become genocidal in its impact. So this notion that Secretary of State Blinken, who is desperately trying to divert the focus of U.S. outrage, global outrage at Israel and at the United States for enabling the Israeli war crimes to continue, he's using every possibility that he can. The negotiations are underway between Israel and Hamas in Cairo, with Egypt and...
The problem for this vote isn't even the ceasefire. They already changed the language to suspension and hostilities, so temporary. But the main point the U.S. is still trying to change is that this resolution would take away the monitoring of the aid truck from Israel to give it to the UN so aid can come in faster. This is what they will veto.
And Qatar as interlocutors. There's other negotiations underway, of course, at the United Nations, as we've been discussing. But the bottom line is that Israel has killed 20,000 people, 70% of them.
It's just incomprehensible.
Children and women. And that doesn't even count the thousands of people
the victims.
that have been killed.
This is the
under
victims
rubble
doing all this.
When Israeli bombs have destroyed buildings and homes over people's
The
bodies.
victims.
So we're looking at
Absolutely
something that
sickening.
has never happened at this scale in this century. And that has to be our focus. That's why we need a ceasefire. You're not going to be able to protect the hostages and bring them home without a ceasefire.
Well, I
You're
know
not going to
catalepsy
be
kills.
able-
I'm just talking what I'm saying what Anthony Blinken was just saying yesterday about this. I can't believe no one would talk about the victims in all this, and they won't denounce the aggressors. Like, it's just like it's truly Orwellian. Like, it's 1984. It literally is. There's no other way of describing it.
To bring in sufficient aid to make it possible to stop what is now real starvation in Gaza. We have not seen that before, even under the siege. We have not seen actual starvation, and now the United States, the United
Well,
Nations.
that's true, Hildy. So many
World
people, like,
Food Program
both
is saying that
with
more
inside
than
the
half
empire
of the
and
family-
outside are realizing how fucking depraved our ruling class really are. You know, and that's something important, I think, that's happening. There's a mass movement starting both domestically and internationally to stand with Palestine, and it's becoming increasingly militant and increasingly unable to be derailed by these kind of accusations about terrorism or anti-Semitism or whatever the normal strategy is. Like, there's a movement that's being built that's impervious to these kinds of attacks. And they're trying to criminalize it as much as they can. Our ruling class is trying to criminalize this, and maybe that'll be successful. But they can't make people stop caring about this. They can criminalize whatever phrase or whatever flag, or if you don't denounce whoever, you know, they can do this. They can criminalize this. They can try to stop people from protesting. But you can't take away an idea from someone's mind. Like, they don't have the power to do that. Whatever power they once had at one point to, like, manipulate people in this way has gone away now. Germany's cracking down hard on pro-Palestinian activists. I saw a pro-Palestinian a British anti-Zionist that's now been arrested as well. Because on Twitter they said, "I support Hamas in their fight against Israel." Which, again, is not a position that I personally hold or whatever talk about on this stream, as you know. But as I've talked about before, what I don't understand is why that's not a legitimate viewpoint to hold. You know, that's what I genuinely don't get. I mean, I do get it, but I don't know how people, like, square this idea in their minds that it's like that's just an illegitimate viewpoint to hold. And it doesn't even need to be about Hamas, but it could be about Putin. It could be about Assad. It could be about Kim Jong-un, Maduro, whatever. Like, the idea that you might not agree with that, you might not agree with someone saying that about Hamas, but it's like, should it be illegal to say that? Should it be a good thing when our government decides which groups are officially terrorist groups that you're not allowed to say things about? You're not allowed to have any kind of critical support or talk about in any nuanced way. Like, that's really dangerous when the state is claiming this kind of power. No, yes, support isn't just literally a tweet. Just saying, like, on a personal level. Just saying, this guy on a personal level, I support Hamas in their fight against Israel. And again, I'm not saying that. No one in this community is saying that. No one in this chat is saying that. But should someone be arrested for saying that? Should someone be kicked off of Twitter or Twitch or be demonetized or fired from their jobs for saying that? I don't really think so. I think that's a legitimate viewpoint. We're supposed to have a marketplace of ideas. It's totally acceptable to say, I support the IDF. It's totally acceptable to say, I support the police. I support the U.S. military. I support the forces of Western imperialism. It's totally okay. It's totally okay to say that. These groups that have significantly higher body counts than a group like Hamas could ever have. The IDF has committed far more terrorism than Hamas ever could hope to in an entire lifetime. But yet, when you go and say and support the IDF, that's not something that's going to, like, cause you to lose your job or get fucking arrested. Yeah, and I know that, Plunger Man, and it's really dangerous when this kind of stuff starts to happen. And frankly, I guess I should even talk about this. I've seen that this stream has been a target of some of these people. I was alerted to this last night, that this stream has been targeted by some of these very people in that community. And I kind of wondered how I was supposed to handle that. I still don't really know. I was advised to maybe, like, take down my VODs or stop clips from happening or whatever, but it's like, I don't really know. I honestly don't know the best thing to do. Frankly, I'm happy with the commentary that I've done about this. I'm proud of the commentary that I've done about this. I wouldn't change anything about it. I think when you, like, take that stuff down, you're kind of, like, admitting that there's something there, that you've done something wrong, and I've done nothing wrong, and I know that. Not that that matters, because people can selectively edit whatever they want to try and, like, do these kinds of, like, mass reporting campaigns. But like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm supposed to do about that. Like, I admit it makes me a little anxious. I don't want to be kicked off this platform, which is my main source of income. I didn't say the community because I'm trying to like not blow up any kind of dramatic thing that causes the channel to get mass reported any more than it already might be. I'm not sure there's anything you can do really. They'll just mass report you for whatever. I mean, that's kind of how I view it, Dakadu. And like, even like my stuff is out there, you know, for better or worse. My commentary is out there. You know, I have tweets from October 7th that have gotten passed around quite a lot. And a lot of people have said a lot of things about that. So I do kind of feel in a certain way that it's just like, there's not much I can really do to try and, if someone decides that that's what they're going to do, it's what they're going to do. And I would like to have some kind of faith or confidence in these big tech companies or whoever else to not allow these like really cynical campaigns of mass reporting channels to like affect people's ability to stay on these platforms for, again, making points that I don't think should be that controversial. Even points like that, even that extreme version that I was talking about, which I don't agree with, but like I still think that's a legitimate viewpoint for someone to have. Anyway, it's hard to know. It's hard to know what to do. Yeah, for sure. For whatever reason, Alexandro, I feel like I maybe don't have quite the same level of hate followings. I think someone mentioned, I was talking about this last night, trying to figure out a kind of way to move forward. And I think maybe some people are maybe a little bit more reluctant to come after me because I've got a larger platform elsewhere and I can also make things difficult for them if it comes down to it. I would rather not have to worry about that, but you know, yeah, I think when people from women or other marginalized groups become targets as well for totally other separate reasons, like totally based on identity and sexism and gender and homophobia and all kinds of other factors end up getting folded up into that. So I don't know. I guess that's what I kind of figured. It makes me a little uncomfortable, but I think I'm just going to continue doing what I've been doing. I have no regrets about any of the commentary that I've done on this, on any platform, going all the way back to October 7th and before that. So I'm not going to try and change anything that I'm doing or try to pretend like I'm doing something wrong, which is not the case. But it's a fucked up time though, the way this is happening.
In Gaza are starving and that 90% are food insecure. That doesn't exist anywhere in the world right now, where 50% of a population is starving. And that's what has to stop. And that's why we need a ceasefire, to end those realities.
And finally, Phyllis, we just have a minute. If you could respond to the New York Times Siena poll that was released earlier this week, where it's clear that
you can count
the
on
majority
me. You're
of
going to have
Americans...
good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Spell check. Thanks for 21 months of Tier 1. Thank you.
Are opposed to the Biden administration's policy, but in a perplexing finding, a number of them say that they would, in the 2024 election, vote for Trump instead as a result.
I can't explain it. I don't know exactly what the question was that they asked, and that's always a key part of how they get answers like this. But I think what's key is the first thing you said, Nermeen. There is massive opposition in this country to what the Biden administration is doing. 80% of Democrats, President Biden's own party, want a ceasefire now. We're seeing massive opposition within the State Department, within the White House. The White House interns, these young, ambitious students, high school and college students, the youngest of the federal workforce, came out publicly and said, we are not the leaders of today, but we aspire to lead in the future, and we cannot stand by and watch this genocide being perpetuated by Israel with our support. That's extraordinary. That's never been seen before in this country. And that's why we say that not only is the U.S. isolated at the United Nations, but the Biden administration on this issue is massively isolated within the United States itself.
Phyllis Bennis, I want to thank you for being
I think something interesting yesterday is that not only America is so isolated internationally right now in this kind of extremist position, you're seeing how even Biden, even the national security CIA wing of the Democrats are starting to abandon Biden's position on this. Even the biggest foreign policy hawks in the Democratic Party coalition are now saying, no, we got to change course. That's how totally extreme Biden's position is on this. The realists are starting to see this. It'll be the end of the empire. I mean, fuck. It's a nice thought. Also, as we know, empires can sometimes take decades or even centuries to die off completely. So it very well may just be the initial dying gasp of the empire, which can get a lot more violent. Here's something from Al Jazeera about the possibility of this expanding into a wider conflict. Which seems like with these Houthis
killed in Gaza by
and
Israel,
this
armed and backed by the US and European
naval activity in the Red Sea seems like that's more of a possibility than ever.
Lebanon and the Houthis in Yemen among the groups involved. Could Israel's war trigger a wider conflict? This is Inside Story.
I'll do it again, Onyx.
Hello and welcome to the program. I'm
do it
Daniel
again.
Navigado. Israel's war on Gaza has killed at least 20,000 Palestinians and injured tens of thousands more.
I'm totally going to see that new Civil War movie, Young Mantic.
For the protection of civilians while simultaneously arming the military bombardment of one of the most densely populated areas in the world. As the death toll rises, so too does regional tension and anger among Israel's opponents. So what happens if the Gaza onslaught continues? Could it spark a wider war in the region? And do the U.S. and its allies have any leverage over the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu? Or does he have their backing regardless of what he does? We'll be asking those questions and more of our guests shortly. But first, Cara Legg takes a look at the possible dangers if Israel's war in Gaza widens into a regional conflict.
Oh my God.
As bombs rain down on Gaza, the reverberations of Israel's war are being felt further afield. Most recently at sea, with Yemen's Houthis targeting ships in the Red Sea in an act of solidarity, they say, with Palestinians under Israel's onslaught. That's prompted the US to form what it calls a multinational naval task force to patrol the vital shipping route. Within the first weeks of its war on Gaza, Israeli officials say they were preparing for a possible expansion on multiple fronts. Hamas called on regional affiliates for support following its October the 7th attacks, which killed more than 1,100 Israelis. Airports in Syria were bombed by Israel, it says, to thwart potential Iranian mobilization efforts there. And in neighboring Iraq, the only Arab country in the Middle East that's passed legislation banning normalization with Israel, armed groups, many backed by Iran, pledged their support for Hamas.
Houthis dropping into the gliders. Oh no!
And threatening to
People are
go
going to
further
get
if Israel
traumatized all over again.
Not just on Gaza, but also in southern Lebanon. Cross-border attacks and exchanges of fire between Israeli forces and Iran-backed Hezbollah fighters have increased in recent months. Iran has sought to distance itself from accusations it's playing a direct role in the Hamas offensive against Israel, but it has warned of regional ramifications if Israel continues its military campaign in Gaza. Members of the Gulf Cooperation Council have presented more of a united front as the months of war drag on, pushing for
Iraq falling into the orbit of Iran is just
humanitarian aid
hilarious.
access
I mean,
through
yeah, yet another example of like American foreign policy driving bitter rivals into the arms of one another because they have a common enemy. Like, this seems to be a common thread now. I saw the most cursed headline about it the other day. The Red Sea crisis is about to ruin Christmas gifts. These fucking Houthis. They're ruining Christmas.
Diplomatic means. Qatar and Egypt, mediators with channels to both Israel and Hamas, secured a captive exchange deal and brief pause in the fighting. And despite normalizing relations with Israel 3 years ago, the United Arab Emirates drafted the latest UN Security Council resolution on a ceasefire.
This whole normalization
Regional
process
power
is
Saudi
never
Arabia
coming
has
back.
reportedly put its normalization talks with Israel on hold as it joined calls
Another victory
for
in the war
lasting
on
truce
Christmas.
in Gaza. Calls that as of now have fallen on deaf
I support
ears
our war on Christmas militants.
as the sound of bombs continue to resonate.
Meanwhile, it's like Israel's bombing churches, like Christian churches, and occupying Jerusalem and persecuting Christians. But no, it's the Houthis that are going against the Christmas spirit right now. Pay no attention to the heavily armed military that we support, persecuting and bombing and beating the shit out of and arresting Christians in the Christian Holy Land. But, you know, let's not talk about that too much.
Gaza. Cara Legg, Al Jazeera for Inside Story.
Let's now bring in our guest. Joining us from New York City is Omar Rahman, who's a fellow at the Middle East Council on Global
Yeah, I know.
Affairs. He focuses
I think
on
I have
Palestine,
Unblock Origin, but I
Middle
just
East
don't have.
geopolitics, and
I need to use a
American
different
foreign
browser.
policy in the region.
Doesn't work.
Over in Washington, D.C., we have Miko Peled, who's a human rights activist and author. His book, The General's Son, Journey of an Israeli in Palestine, is based on his experiences as the son of a former military governor of the Gaza Strip. And joining us from Brussels is Elijah Magnier, a military and political analyst who, as a former war zone correspondent, has covered more than 35 years of conflict in the Middle East and North Africa. Thanks for your time, gentlemen. Good to have you with us on Inside Story. Omar Rahman, the longer the war
Okay, I'm going to switch
in
to
Gaza
Firefox.
goes on, how likely is it that it sparks a regional war? And I know that this is a broad question, but we'll drill down into the details throughout this program.
Sure, it makes the risk ever present. Obviously, as long as it's ongoing, that risk stays there, stays active, and anything can kind of kick it off. Obviously, we've seen the northern front between Israel and Lebanon, active since October 7th, and that has the potential to escalate at any point. In recent weeks, months, the Houthis in Yemen have engaged now, first firing rockets. And now, closing the Bab el-Mandeb Strait.
Does Ryan
shipping
Grimm
lanes,
still
and that
get
has
a Christmas card this year after his egregious snubbing of half the insurgents? He's going to get half a card. Going to get half a card. And that's all. And the lump of coal.
a much broader global economic ramifications. And obviously now the U.S. has put together a kind of a coalition, a naval coalition, which importantly actually doesn't have any Arab states, with the exception of Bahrain, which is almost a consolation prize here. But those other Arab states, even though it affects their economies as well, have not engaged in that effort, and that's kind of important and telling.
So, Omar, if there is then a regional war, and like you say, anything could kick it off, does this then by default mean more of the U.S.'s involvement? Because right now we understand the U.S. is somewhat involved in what's going on, but how deep would the U.S.'s involvement be if there's a wider escalation?
Well, the U.S. is a party to this conflict in many ways. First of all, in its total support for Israel as it's carried out this military campaign. That includes, arming the Israelis. That includes diplomatic cover for the Israelis. That includes intelligence sharing with the Israelis. So in all those particular ways. And then also, as you mentioned, the U.S. has dispatched carrier fleets to the region. So it's engaged militarily somewhat. Obviously, it's not heavily engaged militarily, but it's involved. And that's a double-edged sword because, in one sense, it's meant a deterrence. In another sense, it's a provocation. It also puts more military targets in the region for others to attack, and we've seen that take place. And so, the U.S. is definitely engaged, and there's many ways in which this can affect the region, not only in terms of war, but if Israel's intentions is to ethnically cleanse the Gaza Strip, as it appears is the case, that has effects for border states like Egypt, for Jordan, if. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Speaking of Israel's intentions, Miko, I'll come over to you. Do you think that there is a sort of a premeditated intention by Israel to widen this war, or could it just suddenly erupt out of recklessness? Where do you think the Israeli position is on this?
That's a good question, but I think we need to broaden the lens. I mean, we can't just look at this particular events that began on October the 7th. We have to look at the 75-year history of Palestine. Israel has been engaged in a genocide for 75 years. The rest of the world has been silent, mostly. The Arab countries have been neutralized either through destruction, as we've seen in Lebanon, in Libya, Syria, Iraq, and so on, or through normalization. And Israel is free to do everything it wants. It's not only America and the West that is supporting Israel. I mean, Israel has over 40 diplomatic missions in Africa, and we don't see the African states standing up for Palestine or anyone else in the world. We don't see the BRICS alliance, with maybe the exception of Brazil and South Africa, standing with the Palestinians. So Israel is really quite free to do everything it wants. And there's really nobody in the region that can seriously threaten Israel. Perhaps the only things we're seeing is that perhaps the Houthis' actions are the only ones that are showing some responsibility in trying to curb and respond to the genocide that's been going on.
Sorry about the grunting back doing.
What's the events that began in October 7th, in which, of course, Palestinians were able to come out of this prison, which is the Gaza Strip, and paralyze the state of Israel. This is a heightening of the savagery that we've seen by Israel. Perhaps it's worse than anything we've seen in the past, but it's not separate from everything that's been going on since the state of Israel
was
established.
Me, yes.
Right, you're absolutely right. I mean, the context of all of this, Miko, is in fact the occupation. But what I want to get to today, and for the purposes of this discussion, is where does Israel stand when it comes to widening this conflict?
Sometimes you got to grunt at a big stretch.
Well, Israel has got more air power than anybody else, and so I don't think Israel is worried about that. If anybody tries to seriously engage with Israel, then they will be wiped out, just like we've seen in Lebanon over the years. We've seen, Israel's already bombing in Syria. And so I don't think Israel is concerned about that. Plus, the entire world is supporting it. They're getting all the weapons that they need. So I don't think Israel is worried at all about this. And I'll have to also say, I don't think there's a strategy behind Israel's actions or a great deal of thinking. I think what we're seeing is revenge, is just destruction and killing for the sake of vengeance, because Israel was humiliated on October the 7th. So I don't think Israel is worried about that, as long as it's able to maintain its military power, its military superiority over everybody else. And like I said, the Arab countries have been neutralized. So who is there to threaten Israel?
Okay, Elijah, let's bring you in, and can you weigh in on this discussion? And we've already mentioned the Houthis in Yemen and the U.S. now announcing this maritime coalition. Do you think that this could spark a regional war?
It is already enlarging, because
that's what I sound like.
The intervention of Hezbollah from the second day of this conflict, and the support of the Iraqi resistance attacking the American bases, is sending strong messages to Israel. And finally, the intervention of Ansarullah, Houthis in Yemen, is even sending more powerful message to the Israelis and to their allies.
Kijiji likes the grunting. Everyone likes the grunting.
Contain any borders of Gaza alone, but it is enlarging slowly but surely. This is the style of the axis of the resistance.
Having seen
Never
at least
play-
one triangle video, I'm pretty sure Israel hasn't only been humiliated on October 7th. What's amazing, too, because they tried to do their own triangle videos as well, because they've seen how effective that's been, and they're trying to do their own version of it, and they're just, like, doing a triangle to, like, a fucking residential building, or, like, a school, or whatever, and just blowing up these, like, buildings. Whereas when the Palestinian resistance is doing it, the Qasem fighters, they're like blowing up tanks and APCs. The blue triangle. Give me a fucking break. Yeah, just shooting into an Al Qasem. Thank you for reminding me. I got my brain all twisted there. Tabernacle did a comparison of current IDF vids and Starship Troopers. I should watch that, actually. I like that Tabernacle. He kind of looks like I would when I'm 65 or 70. This guy? I don't know. Jesus. Oh yeah, they're fighting tanks. They have GoPro videos now going around shooting at fuck all. Yeah, just like going into empty rooms and shooting at a bunch of desks and stuff.
All the cards, and I think Israel is extremely worried about it. Otherwise, would never call for such
Suppressive for lay down suppressive cover fire on that wall.
The Americans, the French, and the British would not line up in the Red Sea, stopping and intercepting the missiles and the drones launched by the Houthis. It will not continue supplying the Israelis with tens of thousands of ammunition. It protects Israel at the United Nations by refusing any ceasefire. It's offered 2,000 Delta forces in Israel to support it. They have American drones. All the support that Israel is getting from day one is because Israel is weak and it doesn't manage on its own to confront multiple fronts. But not only that, but even Gaza, after 75 days, it has occupied a third of Gaza, but controlled zero ground, because today there were attacks on Tel Aviv. Yesterday, again, every single day there are attacks on the Israeli occupation forces inside Gaza. It means Israel is quite worried about what's happening and how this war is enlarging slowly but surely.
Elijah, can the what's happening in Yemen and the Red Sea, does this sort of change the positions of the Israelis or the Americans? Could we see retaliation against the Houthis in Yemen, do you think?
Eve to me is basically freedom. It's a giant open universe where you...
Well, the Yemeni said already, if the Americans, and they are fully aware of that, retaliate, then the whole of Bab el-Mandeb will be shut down. Eve. But it is going to be only limited to Bab el-Mandeb, because that will be considered a war zone, and no commercial maritime company will dare to come close to the Red Sea. They will all be diverted to Africa. And then the Houthis will launch their surface-to-surface missiles. Doesn't mean they are stronger than the coalition, but they will not be defeated. But that means then the war will even enlarge even further, because the question is, what's going to happen to the Strait of Hormuz? What's going to happen to the Mediterranean? The Houthis will not be left alone, as Gaza is not left alone.
Okay, speaking of not being left alone, Amar Rahman, I mean, when we talk about a possible regionalization, we're talking, and as you were mentioning earlier, about the involvement in the U.S. that currently exists and could potentially deepen. Does that then mean, by default, the deeper involvement of Iran?
I don't know. I mean, Iran is, in a sense, playing it safe. It's kind of playing the strategy it has it has conducted for many years, which is using non-state actors within the region to carry out certain goals, to put pressure in various ways.
Just wait for the U.S.
So the direct
empire to
involvement in
collapse
Iran,
on itself.
I don't know, is uncertain. Now, if this really regionalizes and there's a full-scale war in certain places, then I'm sure Iran will become involved one way or the other. I think it's not just Iran taking action, but the United States, Israel taking action against Iran and bringing it directly into the conflict itself. So I think that is an ever-present possibility, and we'll see how that plays out.
Mika, would Israel actually be able to fight, let's say, two full-blown conflicts? One, obviously, the war going on in Gaza, and then one on the border with Lebanon, if it gets to that point, even with the U.S.'s backing?
Yes, I mean, again, Israel has got air power, and the air power is the key. I mean, granted, the ground forces are not as effective, certainly not when they face the Hezbollah fighters in Lebanon or the Palestinians in Gaza. But Israel got air power. We've seen what Israel has done in Lebanon in the past. I mean, they caused massive, millions of refugees, total destruction. And I don't really see who is out there that can threaten Israel with an all-out war. Hassan Nasrallah made it very clear that this is a Palestinian issue, that it's not going to be a larger, wider war. I don't see how Iran can possibly get involved. They're not going to send troops. I mean, you know what I mean? I don't see how this is going to happen. I think Israel understands this. And again, Israel has been working very hard for decades to neutralize all of its neighbors, either by destruction or normalization. And nobody's got the military force that Israel has, or again, the hardware.
I got banned on 2 streams today for not being anti-Israel. I hope that doesn't happen here. That's strike 1.
Capability, the capability to cause destruction.
I kind of think you do hope it
yes,
happens. Frankly,
missiles coming from here, missiles coming.
I'm
from
a little
there,
bit. I'm a little bit suspect.
In Yemen, trying to add to this.
I kind of feel like you do hope it happens.
A serious threat to Israel. I don't see where it's going to come from. And again, Israel's got the ability to bomb and destroy entire cities, and again, with the full support of the United States.
This is why it was always really arrogant, I think, to start demanding that like Hezbollah get involved or escalated into this big
the only way
World War III,
basically.
basically.
Israel does have to worry about, and I believe they are worried, is on the diplomatic front, is on the public opinion front, is the fact that more and more people around the world are standing up for, to support the Palestinians. But in terms of war, Israel, I don't see where the threat would come from, and I'm sure the Israelis can see that as well. And I'll say again about Iran, I don't see how Iran's not going to be sending troops. I mean, logistically, this doesn't really work. And again, Israel's strategy of neutralizing its neighbors is working very well in allowing it to do what it's doing, and at the same time not be threatened by anyone.
Human F being, here's the question that I have for you, okay? Here's the question that I have. Do you think that Israel has the right to defend itself? What do you think?
Elijah, look, I mean, Hassan Nasrallah did say in one of his speeches that events on the ground will dictate the group's position and what they do going forward. But for the Israelis, having the Americans stationed off the coast of Lebanon right now, off the shores of Lebanon, do you think that they're sending a message to Hezbollah in Lebanon?
Absolutely not, because the Israelis were sending several messages to Lebanon and to Hezbollah, and Hezbollah has been retaliating. And the Americans are trying with the French to create a dialogue where they can persuade Hezbollah to leave the borders. But the problem is that the Americans and the Israelis have a limited knowledge about how Hezbollah is deployed.
Can't even concentrate on this interview.
Because they are the same people who live in the south of Lebanon, who are part of the south of Lebanon, that are part of the society, who are defending that front and attacking Israel. Now, those who think, I don't think the Israeli officials are that naive to think that having a superpower with the Air Force, that is enough. This is really something in the elementary school. It's showed in the military knowledge, but if we look at Afghanistan, the Americans have the superpower against the Afghani who has not even one jet, and yet the Americans did not defeat Afghanistan. The same in Lebanon. 1982, the Israeli invaded the country, and Hezbollah doesn't have jets. And in the year 2000, Ehud Barak pulled out of Lebanon. It was kicked out. In 2006, the Israeli...
That's the amazing thing about bragging. When you look at all these, like, do some like B-roll footage of all the different American aircraft carriers and vehicles and troops or whatever, being like, the Houthis are about to find out why we don't have free health, why America doesn't have free health care. And it's like, yeah, like the Taliban found out, and like the North Vietnamese found out, and like the Koreans and the Chinese found out, kind of like that. Like they all kicked your asses despite not having any of that stuff. And I don't see why this would be any different.
The superiority in Air Force, and they did manage to achieve in their objective. And without going very far in history, in 2023, in Gaza, Israel has 700 jets. What the jets has achieved so far? Has any of the Hamas member raised a white flag to an Israeli jet? This is why they had to send boots on the ground.
We lost Afghanistan within this presidency, yeah.
Are attacked and are killed and are suffering high casualty in a tiny little area in a big open concentration camp that was surrounded for all these years, and yet managing to stand against what used to be called the most powerful army in the Middle East that was humiliated on the 7th of October and continue to be so in Gaza every single day.
Right. Let's move on to Ahmad for a moment. Ahmad, do you think that the U.S. has a clear plan as to where this war is heading? And I'm not here asking you about the day after, what happens to Gaza. I'm asking about the actual war on the ground. Do you think that the U.S. wants to see a temporary ceasefire, a permanent ceasefire?
Well, and we mentioned this earlier, Farflight. The Houthis already have wins tangentially from battling off the Saudis' $1 trillion military that's basically an extension of the U.S.'s. That's the ridiculous thing about making these claims about the Houthis. Like, we look at all the weapons we have, we're going to kick their asses. They've been fighting a powerful military that has all the exact same weapons for the last 10 years. And they've been getting material support, logistical support, intelligence, whatever, from Britain, from America, from Canada. And they still didn't win. So it's like, why would that situation be any different now? They don't even know that Yemen defeated the U.S. proxy already. Exactly. You're still there. People get hung up on this idea of like American exceptionalism. They still think, look at all our fancy toys, we can kick anyone's ass, when there's literally no precedent for that. Like, there's no recent historical precedent for any of that ever being true. What people need to understand, you can't beat people who are fighting for a cause. Yeah, or when you're a foreign troop, when you're an occupier and a colonizer, you can have significantly more resources and technology than the people that you're occupying and colonizing. But they have their land, and that's what they're fighting for. And you can never have an army of people not from that region coming in to try and take that away. And they'll never have the same kind of attitude or mentality. Wait till those 3 Canadians roll up. Exactly, we got 3 Michaels on the way. That war was basically completely ignored by our press, for sure. I mean, we were still lecturing everyone around the world about our human rights values while we were giving the Saudis the weapons to prosecute this like brutal war there. Yeah, Ansar Allah fought off the Saudi army and UAE Gulf state-funded armies with US, UK intelligence, and they could not win. Houthis have done more damage to the capitalist class than the labor movement has done in a very long time. They're doing the people's work, bless them, and that's why we need to have
old Rob to talk you through all this.
That's why we need to have a militant internationalist labor movement that connects these struggles domestically with these internationalist struggles as well. Diego, thanks for the gifted sub. I really appreciate it.
Strategy.
Well, it's made pretty clear that it is uninterested in a ceasefire from its behavior at the UN Security Council in terms of vetoing and delaying UN Security Council resolutions, which would have a legally binding effect. At the same time, obviously the U.S. is making statements. I don't know if it's paying lip service to the civilian casualties in the way that Israel's conducting the war. Now, it's hard to say if that's genuine concern, if it's posturing while, playing interference, running interference for the Israelis, whether this is some kind of schizophrenic policy in terms of, Biden in terms of all-out support for Israel, while others in his administration are wavering on that front. It's hard to say. But, the U.S., where it matters, where it counts, is arming the Israelis, it's financing the Israelis, it's providing support for the Israelis on the ground, as well as within the United Nations. That's important. And it's really hard to understand, the benefit for the United States. I think in every possible way, this is a disaster for the United States in terms of its national interests, in terms of its international standing, even domestically. I mean, if you could make the argument that domestically this was helping Biden, that would be one thing. But his support is at its lowest possible. And several polls are showing that is also even tied to his response to what's happening in Gaza. So on every front, this is a problem for the United States, and yet it is continuing to carry on along this path and support Israel, and that is very problematic.
Mika, do you think that the U.S. and other allies who are still supporting Israel have any leverage over the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at this point, or does he have their backing regardless of what he does and how he conducts this war?
Well, the answer is yes to both. I mean, he does have their support right now, of course, because this is Israel, and Israel has always had the support.
That's unfortunate to hear ML Thoughtism, because it's weird, because we are seeing in Canada, especially, we're seeing some solidarity with our working class union movements, showing solidarity to LGBTQIA plus people and kids, and also showing solidarity around the world and demanding a ceasefire and stuff. So I guess that does depend on the region and what particular union and the kind of people that are involved. I mean, it goes back to a lot of the ways all these unions purging leftists and socialists from their ranks, years ago. Then you end up with these kinds of reactionary workers' movements.
People going back 75 years, nobody's ever stood in Israel's way. They have leverage. Of course they have leverage. They could stop this tomorrow. They could dismantle, they could bring to the complete dismantling of the apartheid state tomorrow, and the creation of a free democratic Palestine from the river to the sea. They could have prevented all these tens of thousands of horrific deaths of Palestinians in Gaza over the last couple of months. So of course they have leverage. They do have leverage. The thing is, they're not using their leverage. Rather than using their leverage, and I agree, this is a huge blunder. Because
why do you think that they're not using their leverage at this point?
Learning computer science on Brilliant.org means going beyond code to explore.
I'll figure it out eventually.
Like how a neural network
I'm sorry. I'll figure it out.
Because there's no reason to. I mean,
in the new year, I'll finally solve this YouTube ad problem.
Politicians to do so. There's a tradition in the United States and in the West of supporting Israel, a tradition that goes back a very long time, and is the result of a great deal of effort by the various Zionist groups that exist, that operate in the West. So
that's really unfortunate to hear, ML Thoughtism. I'm a union pipe fitter, and they do not care about people struggling. They mock the poor and downtrodden. It's bleak, but things can change. And that's the thing we see, like Sean Fain, and I think that's the kind of attitude that I think can unite a lot of working class movements, and giving a kind of a sort of rallying cry or a call to action for how these unions should engage with these kinds of social issues and international issues.
Supporting Israel is something that comes naturally. It's not even something people have to think about.
You really need Marxism in your union, don't you?
Entrenched in the culture.
Your working class movement without Marxism is just
Israel. And so there's no real
always going to be reactionary
thinking going into this. It's almost reflexive, I think. And so unless there's some serious pressure by constituents that will force elected officials to stand up and end the apartheid state and end this genocide and end this massive brutality against the Palestinian people, there's no reason to expect they will use their leverage, because again, this is how business is done. There's nobody disrupting the business as usual of supporting Israel. There's nobody standing up there and presenting the case for Palestine, if you will. Right. It doesn't exist. There's no counterparts to the Israeli efforts, to the Israeli lobbies, to the various Israeli groups that operate in all over the United States and certainly in Europe. So
Right.
until such time that such a presence exists, there's no reason to expect the United States or the West would use their leverage against Israel.
Elijah, look, it's been described as a genocide, what's going on in Gaza by UN human rights experts. But still, as Mika was just saying, the U.S. not using its leverage on Israel to stop this war. Are the Israelis actually achieving any of their strategic military objectives that they set out to do?
What they have announced they will never achieve, but what they did not announce, they are trying to achieve it. So they said we will defeat Hamas and free all the hostages and the prisoners and the captives, whatever. So they understood they cannot release anyone without negotiation. So that objective is not going to be achieved. And they are asking Qatar to mediate for the release of the prisoners and to eliminate Hamas. Former Prime Minister Ehud Barak said Hamas is an ideology cannot be defeated. This is why the Israelis are doing something completely different, that are destroying Gaza. So they are making sure that no people, no Palestinian, Christian or Muslim will ever return to the north. At least this is where they are at the moment, and they have destroyed all that part. Now, this is where everybody is looking at what's happening there and the behavior of the resistance, if it is still on the same pace, because nobody wants to disturb the Palestinian cause. And all the people who are supporting Gaza and supporting the Palestinian resistance to defend themselves are making sure that the war is not turning between Israel and Iran, or Israel and Hezbollah, or Israel and the Iraqis. This is why there is a very strong focus on what's happening in Gaza and how far the Israelis are going to continue the destruction and the killing of the children and women.
But how delicate is the situation, Elijah? So that, that turning point that could turn with the Iraqis or with Hezbollah in Lebanon or with the Houthis in Yemen, how delicate is it at this point?
It is extremely delicate because the Palestinian cause should not be diverted off course. Otherwise, it will lose the support of the population worldwide. So far, who is supporting Israel is only the United States, and Britain abstained to vote in favor of no ceasefire. Therefore, the rest of the world doesn't stand with Israel. However, it is important not to create a conflict between Iran and Israel, or Hezbollah and Israel, but in the name of Gaza, in the name of the children and women in Gaza. This is exactly what Ansarullah in Yemen have done, and this is why they limited their action only to lift the siege on Gaza. So they're not fighting in the name
Does anyone have that Tabernacle video?
They're not fighting in the name of whatever proxies anyone would like to call them. They're fighting in the name of the Palestinian civilians who are murdered every single day in Gaza by the Israelis.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks to my guests, Omar Rahman, Miko Peled, and Elijah Magnier.
Oh, it's pretty long. This seems really good, though. Am I even subscribed to Tabernacle? I'm not. I don't even know if I have time to look at it. Oh, the one that's like, he's been doing all, like, covering all the IDF TikToks and stuff. I should look at what Tabernacle does and start. It's one thing in the new year. I got to start doing more stuff, more YouTube stuff, a little bit more everything. Maybe I'll just rip off, I'll plagiarize and rip off Cavernacle's content, then I can do a big apology video when I get called out for it. I can do a big teary-eyed, weepy apology video when I get caught from all my rampant, blatant plagiarism. It's such a meme, the deleted apology video. You put out an apology video and then you delete it. What is with that? Talk to Rathbone about his TikToks. I gotta do something. I gotta get to my content to the next level this year. And that includes the think tank. We're gonna have an honest to God think tank in this community about that. I think I'm definitely going to do, James, a whole segment when we do our live show on the 11th. I'm going to do a whole segment on about that. I just don't even know if I have time to get into it. I got to go in about 30 minutes. So I don't know if I want to start another video. Plus, I also have to remind people to please, if you can, subscribe to this program. We're going on 2.5 hours here. I'm at 6 out of 35 subs. About that. Did you know that the only way I'm able to do this show is if the little number at the bottom of the screen goes up every single day? I know it sucks. Believe me, it sucks for me too. But if you can, folks, if possible, please subscribe to TRRS. It's very helpful. It helps me keep this show on the air. It's the only way that I'm able to continue to log in here on twitch.tv/RobRousseau every single day of my life, almost, and keep delivering the goods to you. The only way that I'm able to do that is people subscribe to the show. If the line goes up, the little number goes up. Maybe one day I can have a salary talking about this stuff. You know, that'd be nice, benefits and vacation time and that kind of thing. But today is not that day. Today is not that day. I have no salary. All I have is you. All I have is you, chat. You're the foreign actors that are funding this program. So if you can, please subscribe. Help me make the little number go up. Support the community. Support the work that I do on here. Become an elite tier member of the Friendship Triangle system. That's Twitch's only two-dimensional triangle-shaped friendship access and trickle-down clout tiered reward system. It's the only such system that exists on this platform. It is two-dimensional. It is triangle-shaped.
You can count on me. You're going to have
it's
good
not
old
a cult,
Rob to
and it's
talk
not
you through
a pyramid
all this.
scheme. How can it be a pyramid scheme when it's two-dimensional? Comrade Bushy, thanks for the gifted sub. Always bailing me out. Comrade Bushy, thank you. Oh, man. Woo. The triangle is love, but the triangle is life. Exactly. I'm glad folks understand this.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Thank you, Anon, for the gifted sub. That's very kind of you. Thank you. So far in the monthly gifted sub leaderboards, we've got Kijiji Genie at the number 1 spot, 34 subs. We got Diego, aka Comrade Social Distancing, with 17. And we've got Sam, aka Fonzonzons, with 16. Could someone come from behind? The second spot is up for grabs. Diego and Sam are neck and neck. The second spot on that list is up for grabs. Think of the clout that you can have. Think of the possibilities of the clout that you can have if you rocket right up to the second spot. The only trickle-down clout system I trust. We should film little man on the street satisfied customer videos with our name and vocation at the bottom of the screen for the shill video. It'd be good to do talking head interviews, but like the first spot is also up for grabs too. That's true. I suppose it's possible. It would be good to do talking head videos where people talk about the community and how much it means to them, but they're like constantly glancing off camera like there's someone there. That would be a really good bit too. I don't ever regret joining this community. It was the best decision that I've ever made. And I don't want to talk to my family anymore. I don't need them. They're toxic people. And that's why all I need is to be in this community and the people that are around here. And I would do anything to support that. And I don't ever want to leave here. I don't ever want to leave. Yeah, do the blinking Morse code. Big smile. Everybody's happy.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Oh, goodness. Bleep Lord. Bleep Lord, thanks so much for the 1,500 bits. That's so kind of you.
Premium Fund Fart.
Thank you, Bleep Lord. I really appreciate that. I pay for YouTube Music. Like, why do I not have YouTube Premium? Isn't that connected somehow? I thought it was. And Diego, thanks for gifting a sub as well. Thanks so much, Diego. Close to a hype train as well. 2 minutes away from a hype train. One more gifted sub would get this hype train rolling.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Rob, you should check out this cool podcast called The Insurgents. Don't know if you heard about it.
Thank you, Ramuskin Red, for 33 months of tier 3. I will check that out. Thank you. That sounds good. That sounds like a good podcast. No, I'm actually on that podcast, but of course, who's counting? Who even knows? So we got level 3 of this hype train, folks. A mere 25 subs to go. I know, you heard that right. Only 25 subs to go to get to the goal. And we got a hype train going. Not only could you, the viewer, the listener, the chatter, instantly rocket all the way up to the tippy top of the Friendship Triangle system with the gift of 5 subs or more. But we can also all get access to wonderful and cool exclusive hype train emotes. And you also support this show and support this community, and you get all the tiny little images. Some of the very best tiny little images on this entire platform. For some reason, I'm getting served like sales stuff on TikTok. I'm going to start using these these tactics where I create a need. I mean, I'm already doing it in a way. I create a need, and then I'm not pitching you on something to help me. It's like I'm helping you. I'm solving your problem. Like, I don't even want to be here. I'm trying to help you. Chat, help me help you. This isn't about me. You're here for a reason. We're all feeling isolated. We're all feeling alienated. Right? I'm trying to put together a community that can be there for you. You think this is about me? It's about you, folks. And that is a good emote. Sometimes I wonder why I still am able to use these emotes. I think I need to rename them. Oh, excuse me. My narcissist coworker said that when she's creating conflict, it's because she has a problem being too helpful. That's the problem. You just don't appreciate. You're not giving her space to just be as helpful as she needs to be. Do you know what happened to the Bethune emote? I think there's a couple that I took off just because Bethune comes up sometimes, but it's an emote that you need an emote that conveys a certain feeling or emotion, not just about the one person, you know? Although I do have room for a couple more, so I could technically come back. You need a bunker? I got a solution for you. It's literally the only Twitch stream that has an Enver's Hoja emote. No other Twitch streams have an Enver's Hoja emote. None. Only a minute left, folks, and 32% of the way to this hype train. A gift of 5 subs would get us to the next level, and it would get me closer to the goal. I'm right now in territory of where it makes more sense to just not do the show. But I miss Catboy Rob. Of course you do, Orb Lady. Is that going to get people to subscribe? I don't know. I don't think so. Makes me feel some kind of way. Well, me too. Or did I just notice? I changed my picture like a week or two ago. Oh, Jesus Christ. Barely keeping it together here. It's okay. I think everyone's broke because of Christmas right now. God's own drunk.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
That's so loud. Ground level news. Thanks very much for the gifted sub. I really appreciate that. Thank you. And now a mere 24 to go. A mere 24 subs to go. Got another good 15 minutes. Should be no problem. Should be no problem. I'm so low energy, I can't even get myself into the headspace to really try and promote this. Cannot believe Orblade got her precious cat ears and just disappears. Exactly. Comes in, makes demands, which get followed through on, and then just no reaction. No response. Very typical. I think I do need Alpha Brain. I think I do. I'm DMing people to get ripped like me. Or like me, because I'm also ripped as well. As you all know. We are in the shortest day of the years from yesterday. We'll just get more and more sunlight until June. That's right. We're coming up on the solstice. Because my kid's a solstice baby. Nootropics saved my life. Maybe I should have some kind of nootropic stack. What about that? That could be successful. Like cigarettes and day-old coffee. I do like day-old coffee. I think I prefer fresh, but I'm certainly not beyond drinking that. Actual pyramid scheme. That's right. I can hook you all up with like a. You give a low entrance fee to get involved. You get a bunch of product, and then you got to move that. You move that to your friends and family, and you keep a little piece of the action. Who says no? How do I get to the top? No, wait, medium part of the pyramid. You get to the, well, first of all, it's not a pyramid. It's a triangle. It's two-dimensional. But that's by gifting one or more subs, up to 5. Once you get above 5, then you're in the top tier of the triangle. If you gift between 1 and 4, though, it puts you right there in the chaos zone. There's this man on the computer, Dad. All I need is $250 for me to get started.
On me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through
make some real money. Regular Mole Rat Dragon, thanks for 27 months. Tier 1. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Can I gift cash in a way that you get it all and not half to Bezos? You can also give tips. The tips are good. Patreon is good as well. I'm trying to get Patreon going again. Thinking about some exclusive stuff I can do for there. So there are ways you can do that. You know, the subs are important too. It's because I get the bulk of my income from this stream. But wherever you can do it, everything is very, very helpful. Cat boy feedbacks. Let's not get too crazy here. Let's not get too crazy with this. So remember, folks, only 23 subs to go to get to the goal. Only a few brave heroes could drag my tired ass across the finish line for today. I really have no energy, and I gotta go soon. I really would like to not leave when I have a big gap in between where I need to be, but I don't know if I can continue to do this. In fact, Vexing Thoughts just showed up and I said, okay, that's my cue to get out of here. That's my cue to get out of here now. Where are you going? No, it's not the zoo. It's, I just have to pick my kid up from school. That's all. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays, you've got more of a shorter cutoff time. The human zoo. Yeah, the child zoo. My last school day before winter break. He has one more day on Friday, and he gets to wear pajamas. Wearing pajamas at school on Friday. Oh, I'm stressed out for tomorrow. Because it's his birthday tomorrow, like I was saying. It's his birthday tomorrow as well. So he got to do his birthday party tomorrow, and then the weekend, then it's Christmas. Too much going on. I can get through this, right? I can get through the next couple of days, right? Can we get a "you can do this" Rob going in the chat, please? I need this right now. I need this. No stream tomorrow. No, I'm planning to stream tomorrow. We will see how it goes, I guess. He's going to be in school anyway, so it's not like I have like that much to do. Thank you, chat. Thank you, chat. I appreciate you. I appreciate you, chat. I'm going to get going now then. Yeah, I got started late today too. I think I really just need to give myself more time. I've got to get going. If anyone wants to gift 23 subs in the next minute, I think that would be fantastic. But you know what? It's okay. I don't think I could do a single push-up right now. I don't think I could. I could maybe do one push-up. Maybe. Thank you, Dr. Maggot. I appreciate you. Thank you. No, I'm planning on streaming tomorrow, Diego, but I guess it's possible that I might have too much going on. It's possible. I am planning on doing it though. Okay? And I'll be doing some stuff like, obviously after the next week, it's going to be, pull-ups would be a big problem for me. It's going to be a little sporadic because of Christmas and everything, but I am going to do some streaming throughout the next week. Maybe we can do Die Hard this weekend. Maybe we could possibly do Die Hard Saturday night or probably not Sunday night. Maybe tentatively Die Hard Saturday night in the Discord. I'm going to tentatively lock that in. Does anyone want to join me? Thank you, folks. Give my regards to Adrienne. I'll talk to you soon.